Hello, Neves and Saray. I see you are both connected. Could you both activate your microphones?
Yes, yes, okay. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, who is this? Sorry, I don't have a
It's
connection.
Sarai. First
Sarai.
it was.
Okay, perfect. And Neves, can you just speak too so I can check?
Yes, yes. Hello to everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's
Okay.
yeah, I think it's good. Okay, great. We'll be starting in I think it's in about 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. So
Okay.
if you could just stay connected, that would be great. You can mute your microphones for the time being if you
Sure.
want. Okay, thank you very much. And we'll get back to you very shortly. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back to the room. We are operating with a slight delay. Okay, so we continue with session number 3, which is dedicated to Synergies, collaborating for a transparent and sustainable blue food ecosystem. And I would like to invite Marthe Jewell from Vitagora to lead this session.
Hello, just to start with, I would like to invite onto the stage the panelists who are going to join me for this roundtable. So Saskia, Rachel, Els, and Yada. And we have 2 other people who will be joining us online. Great. So the title of this roundtable is Collaborating for a Transparent and Sustainable Blue Food Ecosystem, Food Sustainability Solutions, Consumer Trust in the European seafood sector. So as you've heard throughout the day, seafood is one of the most globally traded food commodities, and its supply chains are becoming increasingly complex. At the same time, consumers, regulators, industry stakeholders are asking for greater transparency about where seafood comes from, how it is produced, its environmental impact, and the integrity of the information that accompanies it. Over the last few years, a number of EU-funded projects, including SEA2SEE, have been working on different pieces of this puzzle. And I'm delighted to welcome here today 6 representatives of a number of these projects. And what makes this discussion interesting is that we have representatives from projects covering the entire seafood value chain. And together they bring expertise in fisheries data collection, digital technologies, food fraud prevention, consumer trust, sustainability, and stakeholder engagement. Our objective today is not only to discuss the technologies being developed, but also to explore some broader questions. What are the shared barriers and lessons learned from these projects? What opportunities are to be found for clustering, scaling, and legacy actions? And how can collaboration between projects help us build a more coherent and sustainable European blue food ecosystem? Of course, during the discussions, feel free to jump in and add your point of view if I don't specifically ask for you. The idea is for this to be a discussion. And of course, if there are any questions from the audience at any time, feel free to raise your hand and we'll try to answer those on an ongoing basis. Now I would like to invite each one of our speakers to briefly introduce themselves and their projects before we move on to the discussion. So we'll start with Rachel Haugfossbeck, who is joining us from Syntec Ocean in Norway and who represents the project EveryFish.
Great. And do I have a presentation? I'm not sure if I do.
Yes, you do. Use this too. Yep.
Yes, we can.
All right, good. We can pass them on.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me here. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be. There we go. So yeah, I'm from Norway, and I have the honor of coordinating the EveryFish project. And the EveryFish project is ending this year, but the project itself was grounded in some of the basic knowledge that we have that, is this supposed to move? Can it move? There we go. Yeah, so it was grounded in basically how most of the Earth is covered in ocean. And we're also getting increasingly digital. So we're getting more and more digitalization on board all our fishing vessels, from the small scale to the really large scales one. And all of this technology is gradually allowing us to get more and more information from the sea, something which is really important since it's covering so much of the Earth. And what this project was grounded in was trying to find out more about, can we actually trace every fish that's taken out of the sea? Can we find out how much it weighs, what species it is, the length it is, where did we catch it? That kind of information. And can we get that automatically? Can we get that in a way that the fishers don't have to do anything? They don't have to sit and write on an iPad or enter it into Excel sheets or do anything at all. Just happen absolutely automatically. Because we want to get to a point where we can be more sustainable and still have an industry at sea. We need it for food production in the future. We need it for our local communities. And we're looking at it from the recreational fishers and all the way up to the big tuna fishers, because as you guys have talked about all the time, the consumers are increasingly wanting to know more and more about where the fish is coming from, where it's going, and can also the fishers prove that they are fishing sustainably. So part of what we did last year, and where I met some of your esteemed colleagues here and participated in a panel, was that we did have a panel at UNOC. We're so lucky to have a really high-level panel with the commissioner, with the Norwegian Fisheries Directorate, and we were trying to click here, but I'm not sure if anything is working. But maybe it's not. All right. So when it starts loading, you'll see that Costas is the second one on the side there. And we were really excited afterwards that he actually mentioned us specifically and the panel that we were on. And there's a video as well of him going, like having his whole speech and talking about how important digitalization was. This is me being super proud of our panel being up there, obviously. And it was a really, really nice panel. And later we also had one together with SEA2SEE and FishEUTrust talking about this topic as well. So we can see how it's getting more and more important. And to tell you a little bit more exciting, this is exactly kind of what we're doing in this project. So we're capturing for these full 3D images of them. I don't know if it froze here, but we're capturing all these 3D images of these fish. And in doing so, we're making digital twins of all the fish. And this computer is saying, getting all excited and saying, I love this. Can we see about 1 million more of them? And we've been annotating, or we're having students annotate all these different fish species so that these computer systems can identify immediately what they are. And in pure operational terms, what we do in this project is that once the fish in the regular hauling operations, you can see here, once the fish come on board, in this case on a conveyor belt, could also be in a basket, all these trained AIs will then go in and identify the different species, the lengths, the weights, where they were taken. And all of this in a way that's not doing it, like it's not costing any time or anything for the fisher himself. And it's more cost effective and it's working in a way that could be integrated in time with the blockchain. We started working on blockchain, but that was a very tiny part of what we were doing in this project. But this is the part that we see is missing from most traceability. It's what happens at sea, because that information, you only get that once you get to land right now. So that is what we've been doing in this project. And that is where we hope to continue collaborating in the future together with the colleagues that we have here and other colleagues, and try to combine this work in terms of how can we put together all the data we're gathering at sea with the data, with the blockchain technologies that others have worked on, that you've been working on. I have tried to move this forward, but just isn't really moving. And then I'll leave it up to someone else. There we go. So yeah, that's just the LinkedIn and everything. So for everything that you guys want to know.
Right, I can probably move to the next slide, if we can. Oops. Okay, so yes, here we go, perfect. This brings me to the next, actually a pair of our panelists. I'm going to put you together, but please feel free to present yourselves individually. We have Els Torella and Jada Meis from IDVO, Flanders Research Institute for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food from Belgium, who are representing, among other aspects, the project OptiFish.
Was the question in the outside also commented?
I've put it later on because we said we would bring it up when we talk about data collection and data governance. Yeah.
Then I'll keep my introduction. Then I'll keep my introduction short and sweet. Yeah, I'm Els Torelle from the ILVO Marine Research Institute in Oostend in Belgium, and one of the hats that I'm wearing there is being involved in the data collection framework, and especially in the implementation of the National Work Plan of Data Collection Framework. As Marthe mentioned, later on we will talk a little bit more about the data collection framework, because many of these EU-funded projects, do have a link with that overarching regulation of the data collection framework. And so these technologies that are developed, this knowledge and expertise that is developed in all these EU-funded projects, I think they do have a place to have a long-term consistent approach and implementation in the data collection framework. Yeah. Having said that, we'll come back to that a bit later, and about the specific project, which is the OptiFish, which is then in fact in a sequence after SmartFish and EveryFish. Jada, my colleague, will explain you a bit more what is ongoing there. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you for the short introduction already. So my name is Jada Meis, also working at ILVO in Belgium, in Ostend specifically. And I'm here today to talk to you about the OptiFish project, which aims for the optimization of digital catch reporting and monitoring in European fisheries. So we really want to revolutionize how fisheries data is reported, collected, and also used, making it smarter, faster, and more transparent. So OptiFish is a Horizon Europe initiative. It's been running since February 2024, lasting until January 2028. So we're now over halfway. So we still have some time left to do some work. We really want to aim the fishers to enable them to become managers of the marine good. So nowadays, there's still some challenges involved with the catch reporting and monitoring, because they rely on human observations and manual data processes. We need to minimize disruptions in fishing operations. We need to ensure that there's robust data security, and also we need compliance with the regulatory frameworks and also the reporting systems. So we are working together with the fishers by equipping them with digital tools to take ownership of their own data, for them to make informed decisions and also contribute to the marine stewardship. So we are developing different technologies throughout the whole project, and then we're testing them on board of different pilot studies. So we have 5 different pilot studies that you can see on the slides here as well. So they're spread throughout Europe. We chose the pilots just because they are addressing different challenges, because they have different catch handling facilities. So different ways they sort the catch on board, and different ways of working. And additionally, they also cover a broad geographical areas, just to make sure that the automatic species recognition is also developed for commercial, non-commercial, and ETP species throughout Europe. So at the bottom left, you can also see the type of technologies that are going to be tested and improved throughout the projects. So we have genetics that are helping to identify the species. We have, and also to estimate the biomass better. We have electronic monitoring cameras. We have robotics that are also helping with sorting the catch on board the vessels. We have hyperspectral and multispectral cameras that are also aiding in identifying unhealthy fish species. And then also we have integrated monitoring and reporting systems. But of course, technology alone isn't enough. So this is why also with OptiFish, we're putting a lot of efforts in stakeholder acceptance and engagement, just because we know that the trust and collaboration is very, very important here. So we also developed something what we call the OptiFish Academy. And this is where we are going to bring together a lot of different data in different kinds of formats. So it's training, it's just also talking about the solutions that come from the project. It's talking about the specific technologies that are going to be used, if they can be helpful or not. So just combining a lot of information into one tool, one academy, where different stakeholders can go to and then learn more about this. Yeah, and I think what's important here is also that we want to make sure that we have a long-term impact, and this is not just only project-based.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Jada and Ens. I would like now to go to the first of our two online panelists. So the first is Nives Ogrinch.
Yes. Hello. Hello to everyone. Okay, my name is Nives Ogrinch. Yes, I'm coming from Jožef Stefan Institute from Ljubljana, Slovenia, and I'm a coordinator of I was a coordinator of the FishEUTrust because it has been just ended yesterday. So I can make a short introduction of the FishEUTrust. Just a second. So actually our project was the sister project of the SEA2SEE, so we make quite a lot of joint action. But yeah, so as you can see, the main point was the trust, transparency, and sustainability. And we were about 20 partners from 14 countries. And we tried, I actually mentioned, these are not pilot studies, but the living clubs where we test our technologies. And as I said, the main objective of the project was to build trust, transparent, and sustainable seafood system for Europe. The main point was that we integrate the verification technologies, digital traceability, consumer trust, and also governance dimensions. And we tested all the technology that has been developed within the FishEUTrust in the co-creation living clubs. These living clubs has been established at 5 different locations, covering 3 different seas: Mediterranean, Adriatic, and North Sea. From North Sea, we have Oxigard, that from Denmark, from Atlantic, IPMA, and Cedga from Spain, and from Mediterranean, Croatia, and also Malta. So for the verification tools, actually we have not done only digital solutions. We have done 3 different solutions. One is the physical solution, where we actually did the isotope ratio mass spectrometry measurements, microbiome sequences, and genomics, and then we use this and all the data and evaluate them to identify the origin and the type of production using artificial intelligence. But what was the main advantage of this was that we make our data fair, because just putting our data on the Zenodo, this is not fair. We actually make them fair by connecting them with different ontologies and annotate the semantics. And after that, we make it also the knowledge graph to connect this and the data. And this is quite important because this knowledge graph can show you how the data can be connected, what are the main parameters which can identify which can verify the source of the fish. The second was the development of the smart control systems. We developed pathogen, antibiotic, marine toxin detectors, and also the freshness sensors. And actually these rapid verification tools where support seafoods and stronger official control, but has also disadvantages because they cannot be accepted, or I would say they are not accepted by the regulation. And this gives us the opportunity to be part of the research and innovation conference. Actually, FishEUTrust was selected between 15 projects out of 150 to be presented at the commission. And then also, not only technology is important, but also the consumer trust. We did different.
I'm sorry, Nives, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second because the sound from your microphone is a bit.
Sorry, it's getting.
Maybe you can actually sit back a little bit. I think you are too close to the microphone.
Close to the microphone. Okay. It's better.
No, I don't think so. Never mind. Please go on.
Okay, sorry about this, but yeah, and then we actually, maybe I can just put the sound a little bit, yeah. I'm too loud or less loud?
I'm sorry?
I'm too loud or not loud at all?
A bit too loud, I think.
Oh, okay. What about now?
It's about the same, but.
Okay, sorry. Maybe I can speak a little bit less loudly.
Please continue.
But yeah, and okay, also we did a lot of consumer research, and we to engage the consumers and to make the and to support, or to not support, but mostly to show that the fish is quite a nice source of proteins. So, but we do this with face-to-face engagement with the education material, testing, cooking classes, partnership with chefs, young youth engagements, and the IPMA also made a comic book, digital solutions by QR codes, and gamification and behavior testing with the virtual reality tours, using the virtual supermarket. And what we actually get from this, or the results, shows you that there is still strong preferences for wild fish and producer branding and high focus on sustainability and health, and also still stronger attention to price and convenience. And of course, because today is mostly, we are discussing mostly about the digital solutions, we developed the FishEUTrust platform, which connects the IoT system from Cobalia, but also from Montenegro, to make also the possibility the data to be transparent and connected to the blockchains, and we make the digital passport. But not only this, we also connect the sensors to the platform. We also connect the nutritional data to the platform, and we obtain the sustainability data from the to calculate, for example, what is the CO2 footprint. And here you can see that we went from traceability, where the fish was caught, how this can be transported also to the consumer, and why is this important. And one of the sustainability roadmap was also to calculate, or to make the HENI parameter, which gives you the information about the nutritional and health issues, to the CO2 carbon footprints, and you can see that there is a smart choice, or we can support, or we can suggest a smart choice to the consumers with high nutritional value and low environmental impact. And you can see that these are located mostly at the right part, bottom part. So this is all from my side, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nives. So now I'd like to move to the second online participant, which is Sara Ramirez. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for inviting me. I think if I share my screen, you're not seeing that, right?
Yeah, can you share the... Okay, could you share the PowerPoint? Here we go. Everyone,
Okay.
and it's being shared.
It's not so cool as the rest of you, sorry. So my name is Saray Ramirez. I am currently working in the topic of food waste, fishery sustainability, but more in a social and economic way, and in consumer research, very oriented to trust and fish consumption. And I'm now working in CREDA. We are located in Spain, and we are enrolled in many European projects, but also in some national and more regional projects. And we collaborate directly, specifically me, collaborate directly with the fish sector here in Spain and especially in Catalonia. Next slide, please. Today I'm here. Could you move to the next slide, please?
I only have one slide.
Sir, okay. Okay. There was another one, so you can just finish your presentation then. I'm here on behalf of representation of Breadcrumb project. This project is a European project where ILVO is the coordinator. The project started in 2023, and we are finishing this year in December. The aim of the project is to understand and quantify the effect that the public and private marketing standard has in food waste across Europe. And for that, we are collaborating with 16 case studies in 7 different countries for different food commodities, covering the eggs, the fish, the cereals, the meat, the fruits, and the vegetables. For achieving our goal, the first thing that we did was that we did a research, of all the legal framework that now is affecting to food and that might be related to the food waste. And traceability, for instance, is one of these regulations that can affect to the food waste. And then we try to quantify the effect of everything that we scope in the case study. Also, we include the private ones. And for getting all the private marketing standard, we had a lot of meetings, interviews, and surveys with the direct stakeholders of all product food supply chains, so they can tell us their experience in the topic and how the market control what they are providing to us. And the second stage of this project, that is where we are now, was to propose new products to reduce food waste. And these products, of course, need to be economically available and also needs to be interesting for consumers. So right now we are scoping all the marketing tools that could be interesting for adding value to our products. And what we are mainly trying to do is to reduce the food waste because of private food marketing standard, because at the end, many of the publics are regulations that we must comply with. We cannot do a lot regarding that.
Okay, thank you very much, Saray. And to conclude, please, Saskia van Root, who joins us from the University College Dublin in Ireland, and who's working on the project Eff-CoP, but is also the coordinator of the EU Cluster for Food Integrity and Trust.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Saskia van Root, and I'm a professor on the integrity in food supply chains, or actually the lack of integrity in food supply chains. And a lot of my daily work is about the dark side of organizations and people. And usually those are very ordinary people, not criminal gangs, ordinary people. So I would like to ask you here in the audience, who of you think that he or she is an honest person? Raise your hands. Yeah? And here in the panel too, who is an honest person? Consider yourself an honest person, yeah? Okay, and who of you has told a white lie, a small lie in the past 3 months? Raise your hands again.
A small lie.
Yeah. So how's that feasible that you're honest and at the same time not always that honest. Huh? So, and that's what my work is about. And some of these ordinary people under pressure look for unconventional solutions, and they may result in frauds in food supply chains. And the European Food Fraud Community of Practice, Eff-CoP, is a European sort of platform where we connect people from the food industry, from regulatory bodies, academics, tech providers, and we make sure that they talk to each other so that they can learn from each other and that we can address these problems all together. And we had a large event last week, the Authentic Food Festival and Conference in Dublin, where we had also unconventional ways of connecting, like an escape room and serious game and films and a lot of interactive activities. That's what we do in the European Food Fraud Community of Practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Saskia. So we've just heard from 6 very different but very complementary perspectives, each of which is addressing transparency and trust, but from different points of view in the value chain. So I'd like to start this discussion by looking at where the biggest gaps and challenges still remain today, some of which you have already mentioned, but we can delve a little bit deeper. So the question I put to you is, where are the main gaps and barriers to achieving truly transparent and trustworthy seafood supply chains across Europe? Essentially, what is not working today? So Rachel, I'd like to start with you. What is your point of view to this question?
Well, I would say one of the biggest gaps, taken away from everything that has to do with trust, just at a basic level, is the fact that you don't really know what's happening at sea. It's a big black box at sea that's based entirely on us trusting whatever is written down on a piece of paper and not being checked until it's being landed. And even at that point, there could be some challenges. But the fact that we don't actually know how much is discarded, we don't know how much is being high graded, we don't know what's happening at sea. That is, for me, a big challenge. And that's what we've been trying to solve in the EveryFish project and OptiFish.
Okay. As this problem of data collection and data generation, perhaps, on a fisheries level at sea is also, I believe, something that you are attempting to address. Do you have anything to add?
Thank you. Yeah. In fact, yes, indeed, we're trying to address it, and we're trying to address it with the data collection framework. Yeah. And in fact, a huge thank you that we are able to have just a short chat about this data collection framework, because it's also EU funded, but people tend to forget that. It's one of the biggest continued EU-funded projects, yeah. And I compare it sometimes with a box of sweets, yeah. There are all kinds of colors in there. There are all kinds of shapes of sweets in there, and everybody wants to take something out of it. Yeah. Every user of marine environmental data loves to come to the DCF and say, do you have this? Do you have that? Can you help us with having more insight in that big black box, which is the marine environment? In that big black box, which is the processing industry, the recreational industry, socioeconomic data, you name it, we collect it. Yeah. And as Rachel indeed just mentioned, yeah, we cannot count every fish in the sea. Yeah. So we need tools for that. Yeah. We need tools that are scientifically robust and that are based on EU-funded projects, like we have here now around the table. And in fact, I was so excited to see here the SEA2SEE. I was not aware of this project, to be honest. Yeah. And in fact, the platform that I saw, I think this fits perfectly into the data collection framework. Yeah. So when we go to sea, we're trying to do a scientific sampling. Yeah. We count on commercial vessels, on survey vessels. We go to the landing ports. Yeah, we send our observers there. Yeah, we take samples. We take them to the lab. Yeah, we use traditional tools. We use innovative tools. Yeah, we come from pen and paper towards electronic measuring boards, towards eDNA, electronic monitoring, artificial intelligence, you name it, it's there. Data, they need to be stored also. So also in the data collection framework, we need that knowledge that is developed in all those projects to have a robust storage of data so that all that different end users can indeed come to the DCF and that we from the DCF world can say with a certain confidence, of course you can have that. We have a good database and they're quality checked and they're all the data collectors, the data that are collected all in a consolidated way and with consolidated techniques. But the data collection framework indeed is also nothing without an end user. And to have a good end user, we need to make sure that the data are continuously collected, and continuously in qualitative high way. The data are also then evaluated, and they're, for example, used by ICES or by ICAT or GFCM, that are the classic users of that, especially linked to the stock assessments. But the data collection framework is also an example how we work transboundary and within regions and overarching regions. And therefore, I think that indeed the DCF can be a very good vehicle to have a long-term consistent use of some of the tools, or at least many tools and techniques, which are developed and created under these EU-funded projects. And to add to that, I mentioned also the fish processing industry, I mentioned the recreational fisheries, it's also under that data collection framework. And there, that's still a bit of a gap also. Commercial fishery, that's nicely discovered by now. Although we can't count every fish in the sea, we know relatively well what goes on there. But there are so many other aspects. There is the recreational fishery, there's the fish processing industry, there is the traceability, there is the linkage to those commercial fisheries, which is still need to improve. So data collected under, for example, the SEA2SEE, if they could be linked to what is ongoing in a DCF, that's in fact what we need now. That's what I mentioned maybe also this morning with that question. What kind of data are there? It's not just biological data, it's so many other type of data that can be of use to have a good insight in the marine ecosystem and mainly to give also a good advice as well from a governmental point of view, but also to give something back to our fishermen, that they maybe can evolve to more real-time management. I think the moderator of this morning mentioned also when an octopus is now fished in more the North Sea than in the Mediterranean Sea, how quickly can we have that impact into a stock assessment? With the current system, it's too rigid and we can't just change it. But if with all these techniques and this kind of data collected can move to real-time management and decision support tools we are looked at in other projects, we can maybe indeed make a very good link between the traceability, the transparency, and the management. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to come back to something you said, Els, and pass it over to Rachel. You said we more or less know what is happening in commercial fisheries. Do you agree with that there are no significant data gaps in commercial fisheries?
I can't imagine that that's what Els meant.
Or maybe I got that
because
wrong.
there's a significant, obviously we don't know everything that's gone. We know what they're landing, or at least what they're agreeing on landing, but we do not know everything that's happening at sea. It's a big blue ocean out there, and there's a lot of things that could be happening out there that we don't know of. I would say generally fishers are honest, but there's always someone that's not honest. And those are the ones that probably don't want too much oversight at sea. But generally, no, we don't know enough of what's happening at sea. And I think with some kind of system for automatic catch registration, we wouldn't just be catching whoever's discarding illegally, but we'd also gain more knowledge of for example, moving fish stocks, what's coming up in a new area? What's new here? What are we not seeing? What's gone from the area? We would know so much more if we had an automatic way of measuring that. That would, in addition, remove some of the burdens on the fishers for doing it.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned honesty, perhaps, which brings us to the realm of human behavior, which means I can pass the question over to Saskia, because of course that's an area that you delve into deeply. Do you have any? Have you identified any gaps or barriers in this area?
Yeah, to me it appears that, of course, it's good to have control measures in place, but in the end, most of the technical control measures, they take care of the symptoms rather than the root causes behind them. And of course, there's quite some fraud going on in the fish and seafood industry, like in any industry, but animal product supply chains are a bit more susceptible than the others. And if we see that there's so much volatility in the markets, that means that there's, the pressure is changing all the time, whether it's the wars now or tariffs that are changing overnight. Those are certainly adding pressure to people. And I think what we may want to look a bit more into is what are the other factors, the behavioral drivers of people crossing a line or not crossing a line, or daring to speak up or daring to say no. I think that would also be quite helpful. Of course, there are a few greedy people out there, but most will act out of a felt need. They don't even think they did something bad. They think they did something good for their organization, for their families, or for themselves.
So in other words, it's about identifying the levers for acting on human behavior, motivations, and basically the social sciences field, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, we also did we carried out some surveys amongst stakeholders in all industries, not just the fish industry, fish supply chains, but the most what was missing in terms of skills and competences is related to recognizing unusual behavior, for instance, recognizing that among staff, recognizing that with your suppliers, something that there's something wrong there. And so that is also, I think, a part that needs a bit more development. It is present in some of the food fraud vulnerability assessments, but it's a sensitive topic, of course. It's not just about economic drivers, but it's also really about behavior. And there are other tools to control that behavior. That's more the soft controls rather than the hard controls like traceability systems. But I think that's something that we really should look into as well. It's the people behind these frauds.
Sure. I'll come back to the topic now of data. But perhaps a different area of data. And Nives, I'd like to pass the question to you, because data generation and data treatment, I guess you could say, is an important part of your project.
Yes.
Yep.
It's true. Yes, it's true.
So please tell me what are for you the gaps and barriers that you have identified
About the data. First of all, I think we have developed two technologies, digital technologies for traceability. But first of all, they are not really, we cannot use them directly on the market. This is some first gap that we need to overcome later on. The second one is, of course, some new regulations that comes in January 2026, where they want to have this fish supply chain more digital. So the fish farms needs to put the data inside. But first, what we found out, we also make some, once we tested the platform, we found out that first of all, the fish farms do not have many resources to do this, to put all the data. Of course, there are some IoT systems that they can take this data automatically, but still for the traceability, you also need to put some data on the product. Also, sometimes they do not find these technologies that we developed very easy to use. So it's quite so. For some people who are born in digital area, this is fine, but for some people, it's difficult to learn, or I would say also, we try to make these technologies as friendly as possible to the producers, but still, I think this is one of the gaps that needs to be overcome. And the next one is the traceability, the data comparability. Robustness. Are these data really robust enough that they can be comparable in the whole Europe? What do we need to do, or how do we need some? For example, you can, for example, for CBRIM, you can use CBRIM. You can use, for example, ORADA or any other word. So I think this is also very important, that when you are dealing, this interoperability and robustness of the data needs to be put into considerations. And also when you have the data, it's also very important, are they really comparable? Which units you are using, and so on. So there are many, many things that we still need to overcome to really make this system valuable. But we are there. We started, and I think that with the development, this will be more and more useful and upgraded.
Okay, so the question of interoperability.
Yes.
Yeah, technologies which are user-friendly. And speaking of technologies which are user-friendly, I'd just like to come back to Yada, because you've been working on co-creation with fishery stakeholders, I believe. Are there, in the course of your project or your work, are there areas that you've specifically identified that need to be worked on in terms of making things ready for uptake, perhaps we could say?
Yeah, I think if we go back to the gaps as well, I think one of the big gaps here is the adoption. So the fishers and also like the businesses, they really need to see the benefit for them as well. This is also what we've been trying to explain to the different stakeholders as well, that we don't only see the benefits for us as scientists, but we also really want to help other stakeholders make their own informed decisions, but also providing them with better data that's coming from the technologies. But I think as of now, it's been quite difficult for them to see those benefits, just because sometimes they're more long-term benefits and not directly visible for them. So I think this is something that we will still have to work on and or continue to work on with OptiFish as well.
Okay, so it's communicating stakeholder engagement, making sure the understanding of benefits.
Exactly, keep on communicating everything.
Yeah, okay. And speaking of communicating, we've looked at several steps of the value chain through to stakeholders, industries, and so forth, which brings us, of course, to a very important part of the value chain, which is consumers. And I'd like to pass the question to Sare, because this is something you have been working on. Again, speaking of gaps and barriers, in terms of stakeholder engagement, stakeholder communication, do you have anything to add?
Well, at the end, I think that when we think about, and I'm going more in deep into the topic of the traceability and food waste, no? When you want to generate trust in the consumers, no, in that specific states, the only tool that you have at the end is what they see in the product. For one side, is mandatory to have the product correctly labeled, what means that the origin and the production methods needs to be there. But sometimes consumers doesn't even understand the indicators that we put in the label. No, they don't know what is a FAO zone, or they don't really understand the production methods. So it's really, really, really important to teach them our language, no? What we are saying to them in order to improve the sustainability of the products, to improve the decision makings and how they are deciding. And also, I think that by improving the traceability, we will also reduce the food waste, because at the end, there is a lot of product that is being wasted because of not complying. And with all the technologies that you have presented today, it's easier to have this in a feasible and trustful way. And also, I think that from the other side, there are other technologies, as for example, the smart detector that Nils mentioned, no? That help us to look into the food safety of the food. For sure, we cannot commercialize fish that is not correctly labeled because we cannot ensure that is legal or that is safe. But I think that for other non-commercial uses as donation, if we can ensure at least food safety, we could reduce a lot the food waste, and we can give to a lot of vulnerable communities access to good quality nutrients. So I think that all these innovations that today you are presenting will have a remarkable effect, not only in food waste, but also in the quality of the feeding in populations.
Okay, so that's very interesting because the main focus of today has been on impacts in terms of sustainability, but another major impact for the tools of traceability is also food waste, reducing food waste, and also food safety, making sure that the information about food production is there, the data is there, it's reliable, and it is transmitted to the right people. So just bringing back to these complementary impacts of food waste and reducing food waste and increasing food safety, for the rest of the panel, do you have anything to add about the ways that perhaps upstream in seafood production, the tools and innovations you are working on can also impact these two areas? No? Okay, well, that's fine. It was just in case you had something to add. You're still thinking.
Thank you. I'm maybe not thinking about the specific knowledge or something like that, but I think if you could link your fishing activities indeed to your traceability system, that could maybe indeed improve your food waste and maybe reduce some of the discards. I know it's just a spin-off thought.
Okay, please go ahead.
If I can come in as well, like for example, with OptiFish, we also try to start the transparency from the beginning. So with the species recognition, we try to already make sure that we're very transparent on what species are out there. And then this way we want to increase the visibility of what's actually out there, what's landed and processed and actually sold. And I think by creating this transparency regarding those products, we can also see if there's any inefficiencies by products that are otherwise discarded or maybe underutilized while they might have a certain value.
Okay. We're sort of, again, staying around the area of consumers, and we've mentioned the fact that there is already much data being produced, even if perhaps more needs to be found, to be generated. Do you believe, I'll leave this an open question, and please feel free to jump in. Do you believe that that information is in an appropriate form today for the consumption by consumers, to change behaviors, to orient purchasing choices? Go ahead.
I think right now, first of all, we're assuming a lot of the consumers that they're actually even willing to pay for this kind of information. Most of them will look at the price and see, is this the least costly product? I'd like that. Those that are interested in this, which is very few around Europe, and willing to pay for it, this information isn't available at all to them, except in some very few rare cases, like today when we knew exactly where this lunch came from. I know when I was doing my studies in California, there was also some places where you could go to the restaurant and it would say like, you know, Skipper Johnson, like came with his haddock today or something. But that's super local. There is no chain here. It's, you know, that restaurant buying from that person. So I think that for the consumers themselves, there is not enough information for those consumers that really want that information. I think today what they'll look for is some kind of label on it, whether it's MSC or one of the other 400 labels out there. But in general, most consumers are going to still be looking for the price when they search for their seafood.
Okay, so there's a definite area that needs investigation in terms of creating the right tools to influence consumers. Neves, maybe, I'm sorry, please go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
It's me, yeah. No, I want to contribute to that, it's really, really important to better inform consumers, because right now fish is one and seafood is one of the most risky perceived food for consumers, more than any other animal sources food. And I think that this is mainly because the lack of knowledge and the excessive perception of risk that they have for the sea, for contaminants, for microplastics, for parasites, for many things, but that they don't really understand. So I think that here the thing is the miscommunication. From one side, of course, there is a lot of information that is not available, as now has been said, and that they don't have access to, but also there is a lot of information that is being wrongly communicated. So I think that here we have put an eyes on media, on the role that media has to present the product and in risk alert diffusion. Also, I think that the government should take also a more active role in the promotion, of course, of fish consumption, but especially also industry need to align message to provide, for instance, tools to retailers, to food services, to better inform consumers about the species, the good practices, and sustainability, and promoting the consumption, but not only general consumption of fish, but the sustainable consumptions with information, with real information, and with criteria.
Okay, thank you very much. Neves, I'll pass the question to you, because you have also worked on seafood literacy with consumers. What is your conclusion about the current level of seafood literacy among consumers?
I cannot say about the consumers. What do we need? What we found out? Yeah, what we found out, you will not believe, but the education could be one of the most important thing, because you cannot. When we were making some reviews, it was interesting that some of the people do not actually differ between aquaculture and wild fish. So I think that we need to start at very early stages in schools and start the education of the consumers, and also to make this transparency, of course, in the fish supply chain, but make it quite simple. So this is also, we can put a lot of data. Yes, we can. We like to do this, but the consumer doesn't like very much data. Just informative data, they are important for them. So sometimes we don't. We were quite struggling. What kind of the data do we put in this passport? Okay, some data which are under the regulations, but other data, it's So I would say education and simple traceability system.
Yeah, so education and simplified,
yeah.
Simple information, yeah. Okay, well, I'd just like to bring us on. to the next part, which is going beyond the barriers, and now to, you know, what concretely can we do to move things forward. So basically talking about opportunities for further research clustering and scaling. So sorry, I'm just finding my notes. The first question is perhaps how can projects avoid duplication when we're talking about clustering and working together to ensure that innovations beyond the end of project funding actually find their application, I guess you could say. So starting with you, Rachel, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been talking about this for like the past year, ever since we had our big event in Nice. How we need to basically, I don't know, it just sounds weird to just stay in touch, I guess. But I mean, it is important to foster these kind of relationships, right? To actually talk to each other and identify each other, identify these gaps. We've both been very fortunate to have had Neela as a project officer, and we've been like Elsa and I have been collaborating. We're on our third project on the same topic, and just keep on doing it because we found each other and have been managing to build on that. But I do see where we could use this information that we've been working on and take that step onto land as well, which we don't do so much. And that's where you guys come in. But that means that when there are calls like that, and we do need to push Nico on it, and Neela and whoever it is, to make sure that they see that we need to take a step further. We need to bring the land and the sea together as well in some calls. And I think once they do that, we'll be pretty unbeatable. We just need that call to come. And to do that, we do need people to push. We need all of us to push for that in every event possible, and also go directly onto them. But I do think in the next round, there's going to be more opening. There'll be more open calls where we can go in and actually just suggest it.
So in other words, currently there are perhaps a little too much of silos between what's happening in terms of fisheries. So as you said, on sea, and then what's happening more downstream in terms of developing the tools for treating the data. And you need to make those connections to...
If we're going to have any kind of traceability that's real, it's going to have to connect the two.
Yeah.
Because right now it's great on land, okay at sea, or it's okay on land and okay at sea, but it could be great. But as we talked about earlier, there's like a host of challenges with this beyond just the technical. The technical isn't really the biggest issue here. So, but I do think that within, you know, a 10-year period and some really good funding, we could come up with some really good ways of solving these challenges.
Okay. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to mention the continuation of the knowledge that is generated or the tools that are generated in these EU projects, whether it's on seafood or in other areas, but certainly across authentic and safe and sustainable and healthy and secure foods. It helps that there was about 2 years ago, the cluster for food, it's now called Food Integrity and Trust, put together, where there are now 20 European projects involved. So it may be easier to have meetings together, to use each other networks, to use each other stakeholders to retrieve information or to get them to people to join your events. And it will also help because there will be gradually projects coming in, others leaving again. But of course, in the end, it's one big community of scientists, of industry, of regulators, tech providers that continue to work in that space. That is a way of continuing and not losing anything that has been developed already in the past, and take it a step further. And also to get these, to make sure that there are also these connections across on sustainability in seafood, but perhaps there are also projects in other areas or on seafoods, etc. Yeah.
Sorry, Rachel, did you want to continue? Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to reply quickly to that because in a way I think of it, at least like what the projects that Else and Yada and I work on is less food than it is resource extraction. So it's like by the time it gets to you guys, we're not part of, at least I'm not part of any of this, because in a sense we work with the tech that is supposed to help us bring this out to the point where it becomes food. So very seldom, I don't know what kind of projects you have, if you have people like us in those projects as well that work with fisheries technology itself. But we've never been invited in. I've never even heard of this. So I think that's part of like there's usually like a gatekeep, not a gatekeeping. It's just we don't even know the gate is there.
A silo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because for me, it's like it's been interesting hearing you talk about, you know, I know fish is food, but for me, it's like that's not the main focus we've been working on. It's like it's a trade, it's an industry, it's a resource we're extracting. Whereas when you get it, it's a fillet and it's something that we're eating, and then you're in the food group more than you are in the resource extraction. So I do think that's so important to link those though.
Sure. And just coming back to that, the EU cluster for food integrity and trust. Of course, SEA2SEE was one of the founding members. And one thing that's great is that it started off with, I think, 8 members. Is that right? 8 projects. Yeah. In the beginning. Yeah. And now 20, which means that there is the new wave of projects which are joining and prolonging this initiative. So it would be really interesting to see where it keeps going with, again, the next wave of related projects that emerges. And it was interesting that we're talking about for you fish is food, but I'm just going to open up the scope a little bit because the focus again here today is seafood. But of course, seafood is not the only sector where the questions of traceability and trust are important. And we've got at least, I think, Sarah, in your project, you're dealing with different food sectors beyond simply seafood. Seafood is one.
Yes,
sorry?
I'm here.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm here.
I'll come back to Nives first. Nives first. If you have something to add, please go ahead.
Yeah. I have a question actually. We have this cluster now, and of course we started with this cluster and we are finishing the project, and now we go out. Now I would say we will not be so much active. Do you think that it will be good that also project in the past could be active, of course, and how do you think this could be? This is a question. How do you think that how can we do this actually? How do you think that we can support this clustering in the future and not just changing the new project and coming, that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Concretely, and actually we can just continue with that question of Nives. What do we need to do concretely? What are your opinions of what we as project partners need to do to better create that linkage and of course, the word that we all know is synergies, to create those synergies? Is it, for example, at the level of the design of project calls? Is it through?
I don't know.
Sorry?
I'm asking, some ideas how.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe we need to think about that a little bit more. We can come back to it.
Okay.
I can say something about that because, for example, this latest project that we got together was part of even at the design of the call. It was going around, and it started off being relatively like, oh, we need some more information from the sea, and then gradually it says, and they need to collaborate with people from EveryFish, and then it said, and OptiFish, and then it said, and SEA2SEE, and we're like, this is getting better and better. Right? So, I mean, it's even at that stage, it's when they're still designing it and they're sending it around and they're like, this is like a super ultra, very, very private thing that you can't share with anyone. And it's like everyone in Europe has seen it. And almost nobody response to it. All you have to do is read through it, add whatever you want in there, and it seldom gets taken out. So that's the point. Like, if something comes out that is vaguely like this, that's when all of us need to contact each other and say, like, hey, did you see this? We can still influence it. How about if we say that it has to include results from FishEUTrust, EveryFish, OptiFish, and SEA2SEE in order to cover the entire value chain? Second, you say that, you've demanded that those 4 projects work together, or that people, at least from those 4 projects, work together, because otherwise no one's getting access to all that data. You've also made sure that you're probably going to get funded if you have a consortium with those 4, right? So I mean, it's at that point, you need to influence it from the start. You can't sit and wait, because by that time, someone else has added their projects, right? So you need to just be early and make sure that you add your project and the elements you need. I mean, it's kind of like when you're writing, you're putting out a job description for someone, and really who you want is Carla that's sitting next to you. You're making sure that job description fits her and her resume. And that's sort of the same thing here. You need to make sure that you are part of influencing what's coming out.
Okay.
Just very, 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 very briefly. We are a network of projects, but we are also a network of institutions.
And
We're
individuals.
a cluster of projects. We can permanently be a cluster of institutions. A network of knowledge. So in that way, we perpetuate the belonging to the cluster without the need of being associated to a project in particular. But the relationship, the linkage to the mission, let's call it like that, remains. The linkage to the knowledge generation and the data generation stays, and the capacity to group and influence stays and remains. And I completely agree with Rachel. You know that we can't just stand by. We just have to try and influence, and then maybe lobby is a bad word, but to talk about it with the people that we know at the Commission, and to influence the decisions there, and to make it happen earlier rather than later, because they are thinking about 2030. That's probably too late for the sector. We're still trying to implement the previous regulation of labeling and signs in the fishmongers, just giving up the information to the customers, etc. And now we're trying to implement a new regulation with digitalization of all this information. Maybe we are running late. Not the technology. The technology is going to be there. But the implementation, the legislation needs to step ahead.
Personally, I think it's very important to have policy documents developed in your current project, because those will be picked up for the future calls. I've been in projects where I also generated that policy documents based on gap analysis, for instance, and I saw even my own text coming back in those calls. And yeah, there's being asked for that kind of documents to guide the European Commission, and that is the first step towards a future call, basically, and that may be later adjusted when it's circulating for comments. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I can support that reasoning indeed, and for many of the projects, especially for the recent ones, yeah, the Commission explicitly asked for that policy paper. So we need to be smart enough to use those policy papers, as you said, to write what we think is relevant to fulfill some of the legal needs also, but maybe also to change maybe some of the legal needs, because the legal needs are sometimes a little bit over the top, yeah. But I think when we do that, we also need to be honest with ourselves. We're all scientists, we're experts, and we easily go into the temptation also to, I won't say reinvent the wheel, but do another innovation on top of an innovation that has already an innovative technology. Yeah. So we need to be careful there and see also for not duplicate what has been done, and see also what does that end user really needs. What is really needed in that the producing industry, what is really needed for that fisherman, yeah, and not just having development of an innovation for the development of an innovation. I struggle a bit to express exactly what I mean, but I see it with my expert myself in the institute. Yeah, when we talk about artificial intelligence, I see what has been developed in EveryFish, and then in EveryFish there's like the term synthetic data coming up, and then you see that coming in all those Horizon projects, but then up to such an extent that I think, what is now really the value of that for our end users? Are we not stretching it too far on that technical innovation level? Because we look at it with a scientific hat. That human aspect, that social aspect will become, I think, more and more important for the future. And we need to merge them. Yeah. And I think that's a big challenge for our future, to have that human level, that acceptance, use of those things, yeah, and not just innovation for the sake of innovation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Marthe, we have a comment from an online participant.
Yep.
From Kevin Edwards. It says, the global dialogue on seafood traceability will look forward to supporting further discussion. You will see we are supporting digital interoperability of traceability software solutions, work with 11 governments, more than 20 NGOs, and on the production market side, from harvesters to retail. Yet we are all on the same journey towards building trust and sustainability.
I'm sorry, what was the name of the organization?
The Global Dialogue on Seafood Traceability, GDST. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's in the chat, and because I'm tracking it.
Sure. Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
Just to add something small of that, because indeed you mentioned now that organization. So I'm going to go back to my little pet, which is the data collection framework. Yeah, we're also there with 23 member states. Yeah, who work together on a regional level, who try to harmonize how we do things in collecting, in using the data, in transposing the data. Yeah, so pull us in also. When you have a new funded project now, very recently, it has been mentioned always, yeah, but pull in that little pet also. Yeah, we also have a social aspect, we have an economic aspect, and it can be really a good carrier or a carrying train to bring it also a bit further.
Okay. We're really coming to the end of our time. So I would just like to finish with perhaps a question. So hopefully we can go out on a positive note on this question of synergies and collaborations, which is basically, do you have for you a story which stands out of within your projects, a collaboration, a synergy, which has been positive and fruitful for your project? And for this, I'd just like to perhaps pass the question first to Carlos, because of course within SEA2SEE there have been synergies and collaborations with other projects. So is there for you one story example of a positive collaboration which has emerged from this project?
No.
Done.
Of course, yeah. I mean, every time we've touched the door of any other project, it's been a very positive and interested answer. Obviously, we've had a very close collaboration with NIEVS and FishEUTrust for obvious reasons. We are sister projects, as it is called, and we've organized several sessions. Only last week, I think we had a joint policy brief. Precisely talking about that, presenting common policy recommendations. We've been together with EveryFish in Nice. We've had the collaboration of several projects on the legal framework workshop that we organized last year, I think it was. And obviously, we're in the cluster almost from the beginning. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity to interaction, for collaboration, but also for moving forward, because we're passionate about what we do. We're passionate about food, not only the product, but the food okay, the human and humane aspect of food, which I think is important. So I think we have to abund on this good vibes and good collaborations and work together on making this a more durable prospect for tomorrow and for coming opportunities and creating those opportunities, which I think is important.
Thank you, Carlos. So I'll pass this question over to you, and I'll first raise your hand if you'd like to answer. Is there a particular example that stands out for you of a successful collaboration or synergy within your project program? Hopefully at least one person will answer. Yeah, we've had one, but a second one would be good. Oh, yeah, please. Okay, Saray, go ahead.
No, in our case, as you mentioned before, in our project, we have a lot of food commodities different than fish, and indeed, including fish in Breadcrumb was like a side effect because they invite us to the consortium, to GREDA, but for other tasks, and we proposed, could it be possible to include fish as a case study? Because we are really in that line and say, yes, of course. What we found is that we have a completely different legal framework for the public standards of commercialization. So we have done more work than we expected in this, but we have learned a lot. And the synergy that we have found is that other food commodities and fruits and vegetables are really far in adapting products, in the issue of food waste, in finding new ways to reach consumers. And in that sense, it contributes a lot to trying to adapt all those strategies to the fish sector. Because at the end, I think that we have other troubles, no? For instance, the traceability, because we are working with a wild product with extraction activity. And we have missed other things like how to reach consumers, and that's something that other food commodities has a lot of mind. So I think that the most important synergy for us was that other food commodities has contributed deeply to think about how to introduce fish in the market, how to reduce food waste, how to reach consumers.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Saro. If nobody has any, well, I'll just open the question. Would anyone like to add any concluding remarks? Yeah, go ahead.
I just would like to give another example. I already mentioned that event that we had last week, and we started off after the opening with a debate. And we were in the debating chamber of the university, so the seats at two sides like a parliament, and we had given people a colored dot, so they had to sit on one side or the other side without they knowing what it would mean. And one side were the food fraudsters, the other side were the fighters. And we had two spokespeople at both sides, so they first shared their opinion about a motion that was about food fraud is irrelevant, it's something, economically needed. So we had those two sides, they defended, and then they had to speak with the people at either side. And those were large groups, and it was amazing how quickly all those people in that group were discussing, how to defend their points at both sides. And it triggered immediately that discussion, what we aimed for. But of course, we didn't know. We feared also a bit, everyone will you sit there and that's it. So it was really intriguing that with such a small exercise, you get people to connect in this community of practice, people that did not know each other. Some were in the consortium, they would not have known each other, but the others did not. How quickly you can get that discussion and people to talk and connect. And that's also what I hope we can do for this EU cluster, to get it more to become a community of practice, but it's very large scale with 20 projects and all these partners. But still, I think if we can keep that connection and keep talking, we will also be able to deliver better projects, I think, in the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Saskia. I'm going to have to stop now because we've run out of time, but a very big thank you to Rachel, Saskia, Yada, Els, and Saray, and Nives, who are online. This has been a really interesting moment and really interesting discussions. So please applaud our panelists. Thank you very much. And I will pass the microphone to
Thank you,
to do the wrap up.